Live picks and roll coming your way, and another edition on all things NBA and a little focus on the 76ers with Sean Barnard, who does a great job covering the Sixers for us here on The Gambler and the NBA. Of course, representing the squad over at DraftKings Sportsbook as well. I am Sean Brace. A lot to get to, as I said, Sean. Man, we got not one, but two 76ers wins to discuss. I am just absolutely floored. The Sixers are back, Sean Barnard.
Absolutely. Tied for the best record in the NBA across the past two games. So, let's keep them coming here, climbing up the standings. In all seriousness, though, you got to take the wins where you can get them. Getting two back-to-backs a big deal. This is a stretch where they have a chance to pile up some victories and start to turn this season around a little bit. There are some tangible signs of growth with this team. Paul George looking like Paul George. Nick Nurse leaning on some of the young guys a little bit more. Still, we'll see if Joel Embiid can come back and complete this puzzle, but more encouraged than I have been at any other point so far this year.
Yeah, and that's the reality. That's absolutely factual, and we should be. Because it is a long season, but we're 19 games into the season right here. They play 82. Everybody knows that. I did an interview yesterday where they were asking me what's the outlook for this team. I'm still pessimistic beyond belief, but they were trying to make the case that the East is bad, and look, from the standpoint of where they're at, and that's fine. That's all well and good. I just don't have any confidence in the big man remaining healthy. And we'll see what Paul George can do. But like you said, the focus right now, it could be real easy to continue to bury this squad, bury this franchise. But last night, nice win on the road in Charlotte against a bad Charlotte Hornets team that was down a few players. They were favored in that game, so we want to tip the cap, covering the number as well. Good teams win, great teams cover. But back to tonight, they're taking on the Orlando Magic, where the 76ers are actually 4.5-point dogs. So that's intriguing stuff there. But again, I think what you said really hit the nail on the head from Paul George's perspective, because he had a pretty good game last night.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Had 29 points, 8 assists. I continue to be really impressed with his ability to drive and create for others. That wasn't something that was really high on my kind of scouting report of Paul George, or something that we've seen a ton from him. I think the Sixers team has been so starved for playmaking that he's kind of standing out in that category there. But like when comparing them, and I do think the Tobias Harris conversations get a little overplayed. But when thinking about like that role in the offense, which obviously Tobias filled last year, Paul George is filling this year, that's just a night and day difference. Of that is an area of his game that was an unchecked box for Tobias. So having that as an option, his ability to create for others, he had a really nice kind of pick and roll with Yabusele last night, where he hit him on kind of the roll man a couple times there, and like he looked confident down the stretch. There is just like, you can't speed him up. He's playing at his pace. He's still Paul George, man. So it's been frustrating that he's been so in and out of the lineup. We haven't really had a chance to see him or have him grow into a key member of this Sixers team just yet. But let's not forget what a special basketball player this guy has been throughout his entire career. And nice to finally see that he has shown up for this season.
6 and 9 from downtown, 29 total on the evening in Charlotte. Also from the box score, specifically really the minutes more than anything. What was the deal last night with Jared McCain, who finished with 17, pretty good night, 21 minutes total play, but was not a factor in the fourth quarter due to the coach's decision? Nick Nurse, what is your read on that? And is it a mistake? I think you should probably play the rookie of the month, one of your better players on the team, in a crunch time situation. What is your read on that whole deal?
Yeah, I think this is unfortunately going to be an ongoing debate this season with Nick Nurse and how long of a leash he has for Jared McCain. I mean, Jared McCain is 20 years old. He still is a work in progress, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. That I think it's fair to assess that he doesn't make all the right rotations. He's still kind of catching up on that side of the floor. With that all being said, when identifying what the issues have been on the Sixers team, offense is far more of an issue than defense. So I was frustrated by the decision by Nick Nurse last night. Played just 3 minutes in the fourth quarter, which I believe were the first 3 minutes, and then did not play the rest of the stretch there. I can't hear the size argument when a guy like Kyle Lowry is getting minutes as well. I understand you trust him more to do the little things, make those right rotations, defensively be locked in. But to me, I think you got to take the good with the bad. And when McCain was on the floor last night, looked like the third best player on the Sixers, that he really did provide a spark. I thought they were finally running some offensive sets for him off ball as a shooter, which I was really excited to see there. So I need to see more Jared McCain. I don't know what more he could do to prove he's ready outside of obviously the defensive kind of things that I mentioned. But I think the good is worth far more than the bad there. So I think it was a mistake by Nick Nurse. I would have played him far more in the fourth there. And I think like the ultimate decision came down to he went KJ Martin over McCain and kind of went with a defensive minded approach. I just thought he was playing prevent defense too early in that game. So I did think it was the wrong call by Nurse. Ultimately, they got the win, so won't crucify him too much beyond that. But something to note moving forward is I do think this is going to be kind of a theme.
Yeah. And, look, these are the growing pains of dealing with a rookie versus veteran players. Like I said, I just think that playing Jared McCain is more beneficial than anything. Number one. Number two is he is one of your better players, and he's a scorer out there, and the kid has earned it at this point in time. He's earned the opportunity to continue to play extended minutes. So 21 minutes, again, I'd like to see that bump up, but really just for me, it's the fourth quarter. Like, yeah, I want him out there. I want him on the floor. And yeah, Nick Nurse, I don't believe agrees with us at this point in time. We'll see how one plays out. It's going to be a conversation for some here. If we continue to use the games, the things that we've discussed. Anyway, man, going there after the good play doesn't give me a good vibe that warm and fuzzy feeling. Scott is
Night.
All these to call well
Back. If you brush that him,
I lost the Sixers were players. Good news though, two straight. The 5.5. We do have, I'm including the center for a little bit more out tonight. All right. We respect the cup. And this
wrapped up the group. Plus, it's going to be the Okies. Those are the final 8 case there. They'll check in on the score. Like the increase in it over someone's shoulders. We see the Sixers, to me, fit the description, and they're ready to compete PBA championship. See the next couple games.
It had my attention. It's going to be really cool with the knockout round. The group stage is a little funky. You got to get through that. I understand the diehards out there and the old heads are like, oh, dude, what is going on already? Enough of these games.
Yeah.
But now it's to the knockout round. And as you said, this is when the intensity raises up. Big time prize at the end. And of course, all eyes are on you when you're out there in Vegas and playing for a potential NBA Cup championship. Next game up will be Tuesday, December 10th. That's when we get the Magic and the Bucks, and we get the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Mavericks. Again, those are home games for the Thunder and the Bucks there. Following dates, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. And then we get the Hawks and the Knicks. Knicks are home there. And Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. Hello, that's an intriguing matchup. Game in Houston. How about that? And then Saturday of next week, That's when it's the quarterfinals or the semifinals, excuse me, in Vegas, and then the championship will be the following Tuesday. So this will be all wrapped up by December the 17th. Again, I think the NBA has done a good job with this. I really do enjoy the NBA Cup. We respect the Cup right here on the Picks and Roll Daily Ticket, the Gambler, Sean Barnard, Sean Brace. All right. You got to play. Let me fire up DraftKings Sportsbook. Take a look at those futures for the NBA Cup. Are you backing a team? Is there a team that you have your eye on? Tell you what, that Rockets home game is really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I knew we talked about the Warriors on here. I will say I do think I overlooked the Knicks a little bit as a team that this could be built for. That, kind of my same premise here is that they are a team that grinds out every game. They have a little bit more to play for. They kind of have that chip on their shoulder. I'm seeing them as the favorites, and let me know if the odds have shifted, if you're seeing something different. But on DraftKings at plus 310 for the Knicks right now, that's probably the angle I would suggest to take. I'm still not ruling out the Warriors. They've cooled off a little bit, but plus 800 is not a bad price tag there. Pretty clear that there's like the gap here is Knicks at plus 310, Thunder next, Bucks, Rockets, Mavericks, and Warriors all at plus 800 or below. Then the Magic at plus 1200 and Hawks at plus 2200. Orlando isn't isn't the worst shout in the world there. I am kind of buying the way that they're playing. They did lose last night, but they won 6 consecutive before that, and 11 of their last 12 before last night. So playing some really good ball, and Paolo probably not back by the end of this, but a lot of talent on that roster. So I probably lean Knicks. I think it's a little bit of a chalk pick, but I do think that this team could probably use that sort of emotional boost that comes with it.
Interesting. Yeah, well, the Bucks are red hot right now. They've turned it around, Dame and Giannis, but that game is in Orlando. And it's next week, so anything can happen. We got a long way to go. But there's got to be an upset in there somewhere, right? Potentially the Hawks over the Knicks, right? Let me ask you, is there a team that's taking this a little bit more serious than others out of the final 8 here?
Yeah, that's what I think. If you can find the true answer to that, that's your angle, because I do think that plays a ton into this. Milwaukee kind of got their backs put against the wall pretty early on in the season and clearly scrapping out of it. Giannis is playing unbelievable. I think in my mind, he's probably climbed to the MVP favorite. I know the odds would not indicate that, but I've been just incredibly impressed with it, the way that he's playing. I don't see it being the Dallas Mavericks. I would probably count them out for that. The Thunder are interesting because they're so young and hungry that I could see it happening, and just straight up this talented. So I wouldn't overlook that either. The Knicks, to me, feel like that team, that they are going to be kind of those hardos, go all out and try and find a way to win it. So I probably lean the Knicks for that direction, but it's a tough chore to get me to root for that team.
I'm with you there. All right. Sorry, I was just looking at the NBA Creator Cup that's coming to Las Vegas. And I would imagine that that's going to be tied into the NBA Cup final some way, somehow.
When I was out there in Summer League.
Who? I don't even know who these people are. I know Lethal Shooter, the professor. Okay, I know the professor. I know Lethal Shooter because he lit the ball on fire and had like all gook over him. All these other dudes. Jesser,
yeah,
DeAndre Harding, YPK Ray, Cam Wilder, Carson Roney, Chris London, Jube. Who'd you meet?
Carson Roney, I met that Jester dude. So I'm kind of, I would say, like, loosely in the world where I understand it, but not really. So
you're in the age range too.
Yeah, but so just to give this story here, shout out to RB Philly Take, who hooked up us. So when we had our press passes out there, we were through the NBA Creator Program, is how we were kind of.
That's right.
Yeah. So we were seated in the creator section next to a bunch of these people, none of whom, to be perfectly honest, I could recognize just like looking at and saying, hey, that's somebody there. So I got seated next to some dude who I honestly, to this day, couldn't tell you what his name is, was just making normal conversation with him, whatever. Decent guy, whatever. He gets up, walks away. He walks out the exit. A swarm of kids comes sprinting over, asking for autographs, pictures. And I'm just like, who was that dude? So it was another one of the, I wish I could come up with his name on the spot. Another one of the YouTube creators, but Jester was very nice talking to him. Do remember his name, a couple of the other guys. So it's an insane world out there.
Yeah, it's a crazy world we live in, especially with the social media digital age. But
yeah,
and it's funny because you just don't know. Like even our good friend Sheffield Shuffler, who came out on Sunday, Chef's got 90,000 followers on Instagram. I don't know what he's got on TikTok. Like that dude is a content creator with a hell of a following. And yeah, if you put him in the right spot, I'm sure people will be coming up. Look at Philly Captain. People come up to Philly Captain all the time and ask for
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a different day and age. Hey, shout out to all those guys and girls that work hard and building their portfolios and get those followers, because we do it. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. But maybe I need to light stuff on fire and go shoot hoops or something. Maybe that we need a little bit more, cinematic experiences going on around here. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, we'll see. I'll stick to the sports. All right, let's keep it moving here, Sean. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic and the Sixers tonight. 4-point spread. Orlando favored here. Is it telling that the Sixers are 4-point dogs on their home floor? Because obviously we're having fun. We're trying to, strike it up. Like, oh, Sixers are back. They won 2 straight. I look at it. Why not? Why would the Sixers be a 4-point dog tonight after winning 2 straight? I understand the opponents there, but somewhat of a belief right now with that team, I would imagine, is happening inside the locker room, and they're catching 4 at home. I'm almost tempted to say that the Sixers +4 is the play, but I am really hesitant because they've been inconsistent. Actually, they've been consistently bad, and now they just won 2 straight years. So I want to pump the brakes just a little bit. But +4, talk to me about this matchup here.
Yeah, so they have a back-to-back. Both these teams, for starters, are on the second night of a back-to-back for their own games. They also are set to play on Friday again. So back-to-back games against each other. I think the Sixers have to find a way to win one of those two. I'm not super confident that it is tonight. The Magic are a very talented team. They're 15-8 on the season. They're also coming off a loss to the hands of the Knicks last night, a pretty disastrous loss for them that it ended, I believe, like a 23-point loss for them. And some pretty fiery quotes from Jamal Mosley in the post game, talking about how this is not Magic's basketball and that kind of thing. That makes me nervous that we're going to get a pretty focused effort right from the opening tip tonight. But I do think this team's playing in some really high level hoops. That prior to last night's loss, they had won 6 straight. 11 of their last 12 there, and that being without Paolo Banchero on the floor. So Franz Wagner has certainly taken that leap into a true all-star caliber player, particularly in Banchero's absence. They got a lot of other young talent. Jalen Suggs has taken another leap forward this year. Anthony Black playing really well. It's like the talent is there for this team. They're young, they're hungry, they play hard, but they're not unbeatable. So for the Sixers, I think all the questions are still remain internally. If Paul George wants to play like he did last night, I give this team a pretty good chance. I think there's more for Tyrese Maxey to unpack than was the case last night. I do lean towards the +4, but I've kind of approached this as a 2-game series. The Sixers need to find a way to win one of these games. If they lose tonight, Friday kind of becomes a must-win in my eyes.
Probably smart way to look at it there, Sean. And 2 teams matched up back on the 15th of November. Wagner went for 31. Magic won by, I believe, 8. I think the game was in Orlando here. Once again, Sixers hosting the Orlando Magic. And as far as a player prop is concerned tonight, Wagner, would you look back at him due to the success that he had in the previous matchup? And of course, he's having a great season. They changed these things around so many times. It's so weird. Anyways, 26.5. 26.5 is his number tonight. Again, not too much size to help out down there. You'll have Drummond. I'm sure that they're going to find. Oh, no Drummond.
Ankle sprain still.
Did I see that? I don't know if I saw that. Anyways, all right. So even more of a reason to pound Franz Wagner this evening, correct?
Yeah, and I honestly would probably go the direction of the points, rebounds, and assists for him. That number's at 39.5. Very good rebounder, a guy who uses his strength and size incredibly well. He legitimately has been playing at an all-star, borderline all-NBA level for the past 10, 15 games since Banchero has been absent there. He's going to be a problem tonight. I would expect Paul George is probably the guy matching up with him, assuming he's able to go. There is obviously the concern of it being a back-to-back, and if the Sixers played that a little conservative, I personally feel that that's out the window at this point. You kind of have lost the grace period for that being possible, but they are going to be cautious that he is still sporting that brace. But yeah, Wagner is where everything starts and finishes for this Magic team in the short term. I think he has a pretty strong game, pretty much regardless of who's on him.
Maxey 26.5, Suggs 15.5. Not too many players listed at this point in time. Obviously, it's early. But anything there as far as Maxey is concerned with 26.5? Who's the Sixers scorer that you got your eye on the most? Is it back-to-back for Paul George here?
If Paul George is playing, I honestly probably, regardless, it's Maxey for this game that I do.
Wait. What do you wait. If Paul George plays?
I'm saying I think he absolutely should. I do have a little fear that the Sixers pulled the knee injury management here. I'm not saying they should, but all I'm saying is
You're
you see
not
that
saying
bracing.
they should. They better not. What is
I don't
going
think
on?
I just like the only quote I saw from Paul George on this specifically last night was that like he basically said like feel good right now. We'll see what the team says. I plan on playing if I can, and that enough was to be like, oh gosh, like there's a chance in my mind. So I hope it's not the case, but I'm keeping that on the table. I'll say that.
I can't with this. I can't. I can't. I
Yeah.
can't. I can't right now. We just did 20 minutes of positive conversation. And now there's a chance that Paul George doesn't play tonight? What is going on? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not even going to get carried away with it. I'm not going to get carried away with it until if he's ruled out, I'm going to lose my mind. Because I like, what are we doing here? If he's ruled out tonight, come on, man, this season's cooked. Like, we got to be honest. If he can't go back to backs, and at this point, we're 20 games into the season. Like, this isn't opening day. This isn't the first week of the year here. This is 20 games into the season, and you stink. Like, what are we doing here? If he needs to sit out, enough of these. That's a thing that's being. I told you I wasn't going to do this, and now I'm doing it. Like, what are we doing with the whole? Oh, he might not play tonight. If these guys can't go, why do we not just rule him out for 2 weeks? Why do we say, he's got to rehab and rest for 2 weeks. We're going to bring him back. I'm okay with a spot miss here and there. I'm not dumb, but come on, man. This is absurd right now.
Yeah, I'm certainly not arguing that he shouldn't play. I want Paul George to be out there tonight, but I just am putting it out there that I'm not giving it a 100% chance that he is active tonight. I hope I'm absolutely wrong about that. I hope that thought never crosses the minds of the Sixers decision makers there. But I did see like that one little quote from PG last night that made me be like, okay, there's a chance that they're going to be pulling the same nonsense going from here. For Paul, like I have pretty much entirely different outlook than I feel with Joel. The Joel stuff is to me like going to be here forever. This is a management situation. I don't feel that's the case with Paul George, that he very clearly had legitimate injuries, those bone bruises that we saw on full display in the middle of the court. He is rocking a pretty significant brace out there. It looks to me like the ACL stabilizer brace, which I was kind of confused and surprised to see there. He's also got the leg sleeve over top, so tough to get the official look, but clearly they're being very careful with the knees. So wouldn't shock me if they go this direction. I do hope that is not the case, but I do think not seeing odds for Paul George listed just yet is also a little bit telling there.
I don't know. I just don't know. It's just been a disaster,
Yeah.
and if he doesn't play tonight, then like this is a home game too. This is a home game. People are going to lose their minds, but they don't care. They don't care.
They're
All
$1 tickets ahead of tonight.
Come on.
Yeah. Upper decks saw for $1 last night.
What? On what? StubHub?
Game time. This was where I was looking, but yeah.
$1 tickets. Wow, have we fallen?
Yep.
We have fallen face first. This is crazy. All right. Let's keep it moving here. Next game up.
They're up to cheapest is up to $2 now. So maybe the win got some people out of their seats last night.
I wonder what the down low. See, this is how my brain works. If you can get me in the building for $2, that's great. My brain would work as far as, okay, that means down low's got to be cheaper as well. So
take a guess, Grace.
What?
Take a guess.
For what?
Down low.
Give me this. Where are we at? Are we sideline or are we
section 103, row 4?
And then 103 would be where? On the floor?
Behind the home bench.
So, and you said what row again?
4.
I mean, that ticket's normally going for like $300-400, if not more.
$98.
Wow. See, that's where my brain works. And that's a damn good ticket.
Yeah.
You're in on the action. Dude, but if I spent $98 to go see the Sixers team and Paul George doesn't play, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, I hear you for sure on that. Hopefully that we have good news in the near future on that, but I'm just keeping that on the table for people that I do think there's a chance of that.
$98. Wow. Hey, go down there and sit that close to the Sixers bench. You might get called upon by Nick Nurse. You never know. Well, instead of Jared McCain. All right. We got another 5 matchups to kick around here and see if we can find some winners. Talk to me about the Lakers. Everyone's losing their mind about LeBron James and is he old? They're 12-9. I know that he's hitting some numbers that he hasn't done before. I think in the last 3 games he's 0 for 19 from downtown.
Correct.
Not really happening for the King at this point in time, but I'm still not going to look at the Lakers as a team that can't compete here. Like I get it. To me, there's not much difference of this Lakers team versus years past, I guess. Where do you stand on the outlook right now for the Lakers?
Yeah, and I think we kind of talked about that leading into the season, that to me, like JJ Redick was hired as a win now coach without truly win now personnel. That I think like that is kind of the issue with this Lakers team is there's not enough. They have good players. They don't have guys that are true like championship caliber guys. When you talk about looking down the roster of the D'Angelo Russells, all these guys that are good but aren't quite what this team needs, that's still the issue there. So until there is a roster move and they try and upgrade in some sort of regard there, I think this is kind of is what it is for this Lakers team. I don't think it's fair to LeBron James to have to expect him to be carrying this team on an every night basis. It is pretty shocking that he's 0 for 19 from his last 19 3-point attempts there. That has never been done before in his career. And it does feel like he's been a bit more passive lately. You are seeing the signs of father time a little bit more than ever before, but he's still playing at a very high level overall. So I'm not going to fully come down on him. Anthony Davis still also playing very, very well. But I think the reality is that beyond those two and beyond kind of the top end of these players, even guys like Dalton Connect and Austin Reeves who've been good, are they ready to be in the same conversation of when you look at a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder who have the Jalen Williams and the Chet Holmgrens and all these other guys that can step up here? I don't think that is the case for the Lakers. So I don't think the Miami Heat will be a team to overly expose that today. But I do think when having a wider conversation, there is reason for concern that this roster just straight up isn't good enough.
Yeah, I saw people, it's the same old song and dance, right? Like, the same conversations with Darvin Ham coming up right now with JJ. It's like, I don't know. Like, LeBron is running the show. LeBron's not taking a back seat. He's not going to sit himself. Will he take some games off? Sure. I could see that happening. LeBron's not a dummy, but he's the one that's calling the shots, and it's him and JJ at this point in time connected at the hip, I would believe. Haven't really watched the Lakers in great detail, but definitely am aware of what's going on. I don't know. I think nothing has really convinced me that things would be different for this team this season. Last year, they had a pretty good run. They made the semifinals in the Western Conference, I want to say. Something along those lines. Like they made a little bit of a run, but you knew what their ceiling was. And I see it similar this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I might even argue that they might not have the same kind of. I guess my real argument is the West got better and the Lakers didn't, is really the better way to put it there. There's a lot of talent in that conference, and I don't think the Lakers took any strides in that forward direction. Yes, Dalton Connect is awesome. Yes, he's a positive player. But beyond that, there aren't like that many like needle moving changes that they did bring in there. And I'll also say like, I personally felt more impressed, and maybe this is just my bar of expectation has changed, but I was far more impressed watching them through the first couple games of the season than I have been in recent games here. Now, some of that may be like, again, the West got way better. I think like the margin for error has shrunk for what this team is capable of. I do think that there needs to be a shakeup on the roster. And until that is the case, I think the outlook is kind of grim on the season. So it's sad to see LeBron going down at this stage of his career with that being the reality, but that's kind of how I feel how it is. So we'll see if they decide to change things up or hope for a prayer that he can kind of find the fountain of youth for one playoff run.
All right. Conversations coming in as we are live here and people just texting or checking in and back to the Sixers for just a second about Paul George. And, I think a lot of people are on the same kind of wavelength where it's like, prepare yourself, right? That Paul George won't play tonight. That's great. Whatever. Like that's kind of what we've been beaten down with. But I am seeing a few people say the season is over. Team stinks. Who cares if he plays? I think the big thing would be we got to separate the fandom from what actually is being a professional. And if I'm Nick Nurse and these guys are playing, these guys are trying to strive, like they don't look at the season as over, man. Like it's December 4th. It just started. And yes, everybody makes the playoffs. Everybody, like if you're that bad, you're going to make a playing game. There's a lot to play for from the Sixers, but there has to be some sort of sense of urgency at this point in time, although it is December 4th. So I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I just like, dude, Paul George was signed to be a guy to take this team to another level. And without Joel Embiid, he has to be there.
Yeah.
And if he's healthy enough to go yesterday, get your ass out there today.
Yeah, agree with all that. And as far as like the season long outlook for starters, they're 2.5 games out of the play-in tournament currently, with
Correct.
60 plus left in the season. They are going to be just fine. They're all their season long
I don't know
goals.
about that. I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
I'll put it this way. For the people that are the tank the season, it's over. It's
No.
truly not an option. That their draft pick for starters is top 6 protected. So that means if it falls within the first 6 picks, they get it. If it doesn't, you don't. It goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. In order for that to be the case, you have to really try to bottom out this season. I think even if that were the mindset here, are you telling me that the Sixers team will be worse than the Washington Wizards or, the Toronto Raptors or the Utah Jazz this season? I just don't see a world where the players that are on this roster can end up with a worse record than those teams. And the worst case scenario would be the calculation that this is the direction we go. You get there, the lottery happens, and that pick ends up as the 7th pick. And all of a sudden this season was for nothing. So I think very clearly in Daryl Morey's calculations, and I kind of agree with him here, there's a higher likelihood of this team having a puncher's chance in the playoffs to make a little bit of noise than there is for settling and hoping to get that draft pick. So the season is far from over. There is a lot of ball still to be played. Teams are going to get worse. The Chicago Bulls are going to lose more games than the Sixers moving forward. And when you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, do you think the Atlanta Hawks will stay at 500 for the entire season? The Pacers, the Nets are currently in a play-in seat. Like, I don't see these things lasting the season. So just, they got to scrap out and win games, but I don't think this season should be thrown away the way people talk about it.
Nah, and I get it. Our fandom's going to kick in and
Sure.
we're all miserable. And, the outlook, like, I'm not sitting here saying I even want a play-in experience. I really don't. But at the end, this team, who knows what this season looks like come January, February, March, right? Like, we got a long way to go. And I sure as hell don't want to watch a team just completely lose every single night that they take the floor. So I understand the frustration. Believe me, I'm there with everybody on that. But come on, man. Like, you have to put yourself inside that building. These guys are professionals. And you said about wasting a year, like, that really hits home for me, specifically for guys like Tyrese Maxey at the top of the list. Dude, he is like, he's there right now. He's on the cusp of being a guy that's going to be one of the top dogs in the league. And we're just going to waste this year for him. Can't do that. Can't operate like that. That's not the way that they operate. So we'll see. All right, let's keep it moving. No more Sixers conversation. Do you have a play in that Miami Lakers game? Miami's favored by 2 points.
I do lean towards the Lakers getting the upset, the plus 110 on the money line here. I think they're due for some positive regression. LeBron specifically and a couple other members of that team. I still have my doubts about this Miami team. So not a passionate play of mine, but I do lean towards the Lakers winning that game.
Celtics 17-4 on the season. Continuing to look like that great team. What's Porzingis been doing since he's been back?
Look pretty solid. That he hasn't been this like breakout stud, but he's had his moments. I mean, the pick and pop threes are just absolutely dynamic. He's so big, man. Like, real deal 7'2", just shooting over guys. So he adds another element to that team, and they've already looked like probably the best team in basketball, even without him. So they're scary. Boston's the real deal. I think it's extremely likely that they repeat this year. That would be my pick currently.
Hard to argue. All right, they're taking on the Pistons this evening. They matched up last time on October 26th. Boston got the best of them. They won by 8 points. That game was in Detroit tonight. DraftKings Sportsbook showing us here that the Boston Celtics are 13.5-point home favorites. 221 is your total. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Boston to cover the number at 13.5 there. That they are just unbelievable. They're going to launch threes. This Detroit team, they're fun, they're spunky, they're young, and they're more solid than they have been in past years. But I don't think it's the style of play that is kind of has the ingredients of an upset or putting up a challenge to a team like Boston. That they play hard. They got their guys that can make a splash there. But I just don't think that it kind of aligns in this matchup here. I think the perimeter attack from Boston is going to be too much. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown continue to look like the two clear-cut best players on the floor and all the depth behind them. So sign me up for the minus 13.5. I think this probably stays a game through the first half, and then they pour it on in the third quarter is my prediction there.
All right, next game up on the DraftKings card. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets and the Pacers, both 9-13 on the season. One team somewhat expected to be a little bit better at where we're at currently right now in December. Pacers 2-point road favorites in Brooklyn. 225 is our total. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say teams coming from the opposite end of the spectrum as far as the Pacers' underwhelming expectations, the Nets being far better than expected here. Both enter with a 9-13 record, directly tied for the ninth seed in the Eastern Conference currently. I do think Indiana has to turn things around to some extent. Tyrese Halliburton has not been this all-NBA, all-star guard that we kind of had him labeled at due to his play over the past really 2 seasons since he got to Indiana, but last year more specifically was the breakout. I have to believe that's coming back at some point, but I don't think it happens just yet. So I'm kind of buying what this Nets team is selling as far as Cam Thomas has taken a legitimate leap forward in his processing the game. He is still out with a hamstring injury, but that is the guy that kind of stirs the entire drink for this Nets team. I like what they have as far as a ton of deep talent. Cam Johnson playing very well. Nick Claxton still doing his thing. So I think I like the Nets to get the outright victory. I'm rolling with the underdog again here at plus 114 on the money line.
My man. All right, next one up. Sorry, I just got the word that Dead and Company just renewed at the Sphere in Vegas. Gotta get there, Barnard. Gotta get there. My wife said you still haven't paid off the last 2 trips that you went on to Vegas.
Tough.
Oh, yeah, that's really tough. All right, Hawks and Bucks, 4-point spread. Bucks favored at home, 236. Possibly one of the hottest teams in the game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm riding with the hot hand that I do think Milwaukee, and more specifically Giannis, has just been incredible. And there's Brook Lopez seeming like he's found a little bit of youth again. They're getting a little bit of play from some of the complementary pieces. They're still dealing with the Chris Middleton injury, which is probably the hopeful that ceiling of that team can be reached. But ultimately, I don't think Atlanta is quite good enough to keep them under wraps here. I do like what Atlanta's building. I think Reese Shea has been pretty impressive as the number 1 overall pick and a guy that nobody really had much buzz about. Jalen Johnson very clearly having this outbreak as an all-star caliber talent that does change the equation for Atlanta moving forward. But for tonight specifically, I think Milwaukee keeps it moving. They cover the -4 and continue kind of proving to people why they were talked about as this Eastern Conference threat. We're starting to finally see that happen.
All right, final game on the DraftKings card, Clippers and the T-Wolves. Game being played in the Dome out there in LA. And so far, Clippers have looked pretty good this season. 14-9 record, inconsistent, but middle of the road for the T-Wolves. 10-10 on the season. Definitely some issues there. Some players calling each other out, all that. But we'll see what happens this evening. Once again, spread 3 points. Timberwolves are favored on the road at the Clippers. Who's missing the game from LA's perspective?
I don't. Let me double check that right now. That's probably a pretty normal line to me, though. That wasn't something that jumped out due to injuries, but to dive into the exact injury report for LA, we do have Kevin Porter Jr. that was ruled out of last night's game. See if he's back. Terrence Mann sustained a fractured middle finger, so that probably will keep him out for tonight. No Kobe Brown, and then obviously PJ Tucker and Kawhi as well. So no real needle movers. Kevin Porter Jr. probably the most impactful player to keep an eye on here.
But they're favored by 3. Interesting. Why is that?
I mean, both these teams are pretty similar to me. I think Minnesota has played below expectation, and they're kind of waiting for an increase in the output there would probably be my guess on it. I think Clippers are probably on the opposite end of the spectrum, but in general, my favorite play for this game would be the under of 213.5. Both these teams top 8 in opponents' points per game allowed. They have this kind of defensive-minded, tough approach. I think that's like an ideal style of basketball to surround James Harden with the Derrick Jones Jr.'s, the Terrence Manns, the guys that just want a mere coffee, want to buzz and compete defensively there. They got a lot of those dudes. So I think both these teams are going to make an impact with their perimeter defense. I don't think points are going to be easy to come by whatsoever in this game. So I like the cushion of the 213.5. I think this one has a strong chance of ending below triple digits for both teams.
All right. Just hit the card. Talk, excuse me, extended 76ers conversation there. I'm not going to sell you a dream. I just want to be entertained. So get out there and see what we got this evening against the Orlando Magic. And we'll see what happens as far as who's available and fire on some plays as we get closer to tip as usual. You got to love the NBA betting experience. But Sean Barnard, great stuff as always. We find you over at Sean_Barnard1, and it's DK Network.
Nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you. DKNetwork.com for all the great content that he cooks up with the folks over at DraftKings Sportsbook. All right. So if you missed anything, at FoxPHLGambler.com. Once again, at FoxPHLGambler.com. com.